Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? Saturday, May 30th. And before we get into kind of the financial news of the day, I did want to take a moment and kind of self-reflect myself. Also ask you to do the same thing. We're almost 5 months completed into 2020, and I don't think it would. I don't think it's going out on a limb in saying that 2020 has been a rough year so far. It's been a rough year for our economy, for the world economy. We have had plenty of things to be afraid of. We have had plenty of things that are, pushed in our direction that could make us afraid for the rest of the year. But something I'm going to be doing this weekend, because it just happens that my 13-week goals end tomorrow. So I'm going to be creating my next 13-week set of goals. And if you don't know what those are, I have a whole playlist on my goals that I talk to you every Sunday about. So they're there for you to watch. But I'm really going to be thinking about what I want to accomplish in the last 7 months, specifically in the next 13 weeks. When you look at my goals for the last 13 weeks, you can really see a drop off in many of them after kind of week 4, which California went into shelter in place. And it was a time of unknown, even for me. For 20 years of real estate investing, it became a very shaky foundation. Right? If you read our book, One Rental at a Time, there were 2 periods where we just didn't know what was going on. So we hit the pause button. And I suggested for most of you that are just learning your market that you should just do that. Learn your market, right? Because we don't know where this is going. I think it's becoming clearer. I think it's becoming clear that the single family home market will do much better than expected. There will certainly be some metros that are changed, like New York, San Francisco, Las Vegas, Orlando, potentially LA. But most of the country is going to be fine. I suspect most of the country will see home price appreciation in the single family home kind of below the affordable level, or at the affordable level. The high end is going to be in trouble. So really got to think about what we want to do for the next 7 months. And really for me, it's going to be, I think each month going forward gets better than the last. I think April will prove to be the worst on record from an economic perspective. I think May will be better than April. I think June will be better than May. And when you look at that, and again, you think about this channel being real estate and consumers, that's a nice upward trend. And I think that's going to be a trend that goes on for months, if not quarters, and probably goes into next year. I do think we have things that could trip us up. There's definitely things that we need to watch for. And I think a lot of the stuff going on today is important to watch. But I think the thing that nobody is talking about yet that will become a topic of this channel that frankly I've tried to avoid because both sides are extremely passionate is, the presidential election is coming up, right? It's roughly 5 months away. And I'm afraid it'll be the most toxic election on record. It has the chance to show the good and the bad of us. So that is going to be something to watch. But other than that, I think we get better from here. So I just wanted to just ask you, right? Take this weekend, think about what you want to accomplish in the next 7 months. It wouldn't shock me if, like myself, the last 3 months have really just kind of stuck me in my tracks. I did close a real estate transaction yesterday, which I'm really excited about, which I'll break down in a separate video in the next week or so when I have time. But it's really going to be about what we accomplish in the next 7 months. So do yourself a favor, look at it, and really see literally see what's going on. And had a couple of comments here about the Denver market. I think most of the country is really crazy right now. Supply is low, buyers are everywhere, and as the two comments have said, Denver's on fire, right? Or not, I shouldn't use fire. Denver market is going crazy. Lots of demand, restricted supply. I really do think, as crazy as it sounds, that prices will go up. Um, Prices will go up. So that will be interesting. And you know, if financing gets slightly less restrictive, man, can you imagine what would happen? Right now, the jumbo market is turned off. Um, Lots of lenders have gone higher credit scores. You have lots of overlays. Man, if lending retracts even a little bit, which it absolutely can, right? If the economy starts picking up, May's better than April, June better than May, July better than June, banks will get less nervous, and we could be off to the races in the single family home market. So again, watch that. So back to the news of the day, couple of pages. I'm going to do my best to cite sources. That's been a request. But we'll see how I do going forward. So first and foremost, looks like the U.S. is, wow, $1 million homes getting multiple offers. Interesting. Out in Longmont, Colorado. Interesting. Thanks for that. I did not expect that. So the U.S. is looking to cancel trading advantages with Hong Kong. This is kind of our poke at China for what they are doing with some new laws put in place by Hong Kong. This is going to be a long process where you now have, what's going to be China's response. They did put out something in their paper basically saying, stop meddling in our business. But really for me, it's going to be, what does this really mean for U.S. companies that are operating in Hong Kong? That's the big question that is yet unanswered, right? Is it a non-event? Is it get out of Dodge, or is it somewhere in between? And it's probably somewhere in between, but that's the big question we have to watch, and the impact of that. Looks like it's very clear that there will be another stimulus bill coming up probably in the next 30 days. Looks like the Senate has said one more stimulus bill. It'll be interesting to see how they negotiate on that. It is going to be important to watch that. To all Mitch's McConnell's kind of talk about early on about unemployment benefits not being extended, I think it will become very obvious to the Republicans that if they have any hope of holding on to the presidential election, they're going to have to extend those, because right now the swing states are having pretty high unemployment, and people do not generally vote for the incumbent when they are unemployed. They want to change. So, Mitch, you are going to be changing your tune on that, is my strong suspicion. Another thing going on is, it looks like, according to the National Association of Realtors, NAR, pending homes, this is existing homes, right? We talked about new construction on Wednesday, I think. But existing home sales for April were down almost 22% month on month, down 34% year on year. That's just the spring selling season hitting pause. It will be interesting to see if that moves to the summer, as we have talked about. Most notably, and probably not surprising, the Northeast, which incorporates New York, saw a 52, almost 53% drop year on year, and that's quite a drop. The West, just because California is in there, was down just a touch over 37%. But you can already see that is starting to turn around. Another thing, though, the mix is important. We saw new construction, I think that was Wednesday, come in at 1%, almost 1% up. But the existing housing stock is down, and that just shows you sellers are scared. People don't. It's just easier to buy a new construction home, so that is interesting. Don't know if you're going to be watching this, but it looks like SpaceX is sending a couple of astronauts to space today. That's could be a point of national pride. Could be something to check out. It was actually, there was a launch scrubbed, I think, on Thursday, so we will take a look at that. I don't know. Anybody here really have interest in getting on a rocket and being shot off into space, I could not imagine. Well, I guess I could imagine several things, but that would freak me out. I do not like flying on planes. You think you're going to put me on a rocket and shoot me to outer space? No thanks. I'm going to keep my feet on the ground. How about you? You gonna jump on a rocket if you had a chance and go to outer space? Again, more. I think more news. More news. More positive news. Again, just getting back to some kind of normal or new normal. The NBA, which if you follow this channel, you know that I happen to be a Warriors season ticket holder and look forward to watching basketball, even if the Warriors are not playing, which right now they have the worst record in the league and they're probably not going to be playing. But the NBA looks to be returning July 31st. Sports, big part of the American culture, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, shoot, golf, NASCAR. We gotta get something to root for and going forward. If you haven't gotten your stimulus check yet, do yourself a favor and check what you think is junk mail. I've heard at least some casual reports of people throwing away their new debit cards. They stopped sending checks; they're now sending debit cards. So go ahead and see what is in that. As far as if you're in the stock market, I found an interesting variable from Market Watch today. It looks like 94% of the S&P 500 is trading above its 50-day moving average. I guess I got one question for you. Do we stop calling this a bear market rally and just call it the next bull market? Again, not a stock market investor, have been horribly wrong about stocks the last, I don't know, 100 days or so. It will be interesting to see if this is just the start of the next bull market. And again, if you can write off, if you're a stock market investor and you can write off April and May, just blink and pretend like they didn't happen, I think you have a nice runway because like I've said, I think each month going forward is going to be better than the last. So, yeah, I mean, I guess maybe it's the next bull market and maybe this is just over before we knew it, before we know it. Again, the last thing for me, I guess there's two more things. First, let's talk about Airbnb. I just found this before I hit record. This is from the all the rooms analytics. See, I'm trying to cite sources. I've never heard of them, but they were cited as the source for this. They're saying Airbnb occupancies are up 17.1% month on month. They are still down roughly 15.5% year on year. But it looks like Airbnb occupancies are going up. And I think that's probably a trend that continues. Anna Kelly has shared with us a couple of times that during a recession, people do not take that expensive European vacation. They instead do something within driving distance. So certainly something to think about. That article did go on to talk about their bellwethers of New York and California are still struggling. There's a lot of Airbnbs that were kind of focused on workers and conventions, and that is still off. But if you're in a small beach community, they are saying, at least compared to April, that May bookings are up. And then finally, the biggest question for me on the real estate market, again, where I am focused, I want to add more rentals to my portfolio, I want to buy more junkers, is when do the sellers show up? I've called for the sellers to retract, which happened and probably even happened faster and deeper than I expected. When I look at the inventory that kind of hits my mark, it's down 60 or 70% from what I used to see. And again, I've been looking every day for nearly 20 years. So it is way, way down. I just wonder when supply comes back. Right? Has something fundamentally changed where if you were a seller this year, you've decided to hold it back and just wait, right? You don't have to sell. You're going to wait. Maybe you'll wait till next year. Do you wait till the summer? I don't know. This is right now, if we don't get more inventory, prices are going to explode higher. The demand, even though the demand's down, it's not down proportionally, right? If you had, at least again, in my market, if both sellers and buyers were at 100, right, that was the baseline, inventory has come down by 40%, so that's a 60. The buyer demand, if it was at 100, is 80. So they're not equal anymore. And the demand is just off the charts, as we have seen in a couple of comments here, and I see every day in my market. Again, if supply doesn't come back meaningfully in the next 6 to 8 weeks, we're going to start reporting price increases, and we're all going to be shocked. So that is interesting. And then lastly, again, let's take this weekend and think about what we want to do the rest of the year. I will report on my goals tomorrow, which will finish up the second 13 weeks. And I need to think about what I want to get accomplished. So, let's take this opportunity this weekend to kind of flush the first, let's call it the first half, even though it's not quite half, of 2020 behind us. It's been a beast of a year so far, and let's try to make it better in the next 7 months. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching this Saturday edition of Financial News, May 30th. If you haven't subscribed yet, do me a favor, hit subscribe, thumbs up, all that good stuff. Take care. Bye.